So over the last few years, I've built 3 7-figure online businesses. And in that time, I've hired over 100 remote virtual assistants for every role within my business, from operations to marketing to sales, appointment setting, customer success, you name it. And in this video, I'm gonna break down the key hires that made the biggest difference. The ones that really saved me the most time, removed me from the day-to-day, and helped me scale the business so that you can do the exact same thing. All right, so let me first talk about why I started hiring overseas in the first place. So I started my career off in real estate, and I was stuck doing everything in the day-to-day, from cold calling people to touring clients, negotiating the offers, like literally everything from A to Z. And I did this for a couple years and I made very, very little progress. I quickly realized that I only had so much time in the day, I only had so much energy in the day, and the reality of the things that I was working on is that they really just were not that difficult. The most important thing that I was spending my time on, that I wanted to maximize the amount of time I was spending on, was speaking with clients, meeting with clients, really just client-facing stuff. And then all of the admin, the cold calling, the research, contracts, like all that stuff, it wasn't hard. I knew that I could just train someone to do it. And at the time, I was like 22, 23 years old. I was just getting going. I heard about another guy within the real estate industry who had been hiring some people in the Philippines. And at the time, I was like, what's the Philippines? Like, I didn't know anything about the country at all, funny enough. And he had told me that he hired some VAs, some virtual assistants there, to do some like lower leverage work, and it really had freed up a lot of his time and it made a big difference for him. So I was like, you know what, I got nothing to lose. I'm barely making any money. I can't afford to hire anyone locally because I'm barely making enough money to feed myself. I don't know how I'm gonna hire an employee. So I went online, I posted some jobs, started interviewing people. I had no idea what I was doing at all. I had never interviewed anyone in my life. And eventually I ended up hiring someone in the Philippines. Fast forward a couple of years, I did try hiring people in the US because I thought at the time I would get better quality. But what I found was that the people I was hiring overseas compared to the people that I was hiring locally, they produced the exact same quality of work. And honestly, in many instances, the people I was hiring overseas produced better quality work. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, well, I can pay this person $12,000 a year, as opposed to someone in the US that I'm paying $60,000 a year, and they're producing better work quality. I can just go and hire 5 people overseas for the price of 1 US person, and the US person isn't even good anyways. This was a huge mindset shift for me. Fast forward to today, where I have 3 businesses solely built on overseas talent. There's a number of other reasons why I continue to only hire people overseas. One of those reasons is it just allows me to move a lot faster. So if I was looking to hire someone locally, I'm going to be limited on the people that live within a certain mile radius of wherever I'm going to have them come into my office. And when it comes to hiring, it's really just a numbers game. The more people that you can get to apply to your job, the more likely you are to find an A player who's going to come in and just absolutely crush it. Now, conversely, if you're hiring locally and you need someone to live within like a 30 to 40 minute radius of where your office is, you're only going to be able to draw from a very limited amount of people. And at that point, you kind of have to get lucky if you find an A player. So when I hire overseas, I can blast out the job description to entire countries. Oftentimes when I'll go hire someone new, I'll look in like 4 to 5 different countries, not just a 30-minute radius around my office. And as a result, I get thousands of applicants a day. And by the sheer volume of people applying to the job, I just find way better talent. And I also find them a lot faster. The top 3 limiting beliefs that people have from hiring overseas are usually English fluency, which, I mean, if you've traveled and you've been outside the US, you see that it's not a problem at all. It's literally just completely false. Quality of work, they're worried that they're gonna go hire someone in Latin America or the Philippines or wherever, and their work quality is going to suffer, and they associate the lower salary that they're paying them with lower quality work, and it's just not a direct correlation. They don't understand that the cost of living is significantly lower in other countries, so people don't need to make as much money. And then the third thing that really holds people back is they think that if they put the person in a client-facing role, that there's going to be a huge cultural gap, and like they're not going to be able to communicate with the client. It's going to be weird. They basically think that the person that they're going to hire is going to to be the equivalent of like an Indian person in a call center working for Visa that you call and you want to like smash your head against the wall when you're talking to them. That's not the case at all. I find very personable people with great personalities who think outside the box, they go above and beyond, and overall they're just great human beings. All right, let's now dive into 3 specific hires throughout my career that were absolute game changers. All right, so the 3 businesses that I have are in real estate. I have a call center. It's basically a call answering service. We answer the phone for different types of companies. And then I have a staffing company where we go and help you hire remote talent. Now let's take the call center, for example. So this particular business has a lot of people working in it. As we get more clients, we have to hire more people. So we're constantly just hiring. And then with that, you get more people, you get more problems and more headaches. So for me, trying to scale this business, because I have limited time, energy, and attention, and I have dozens and dozens and dozens of people that are working within the company, in no way, shape, or form can I allow all those people to interact with me. It's way too distracting. So the key hire in this particular business was hiring an operations manager and doing this very, very early on. This person basically manages the day-to-day of the entire business. So this includes managing the staff, interacting with the clients, making sure everyone shows up on time, answering any basic questions that they have, solving little problems here and there, like just operating the day-to-day of the business. This hire was a complete game changer because this allowed me to step away from any of the client-facing stuff, dealing with the team, really like pretty much everything. And then at this point, I've gotten the business to the point where really all I have to do is focus on creating content, kind of like this video right here, or just focusing on marketing, coaching the sales team, stuff like that. It really allows me to focus on the absolute highest leverage tasks that I possibly can. Before I had this person, I had so many team members reporting to me. I had clients calling my cell phone, texting me. And a lot of those clients when I was starting off were just honestly not reasonable people. They were sucking up way too much of my time for what they were paying for me. They were complaining about stuff, and then I'd go and look into the complaint and find out it was actually their fault and it wasn't our fault, but that would take like an hour or 2 out of my day. So it was a huge time suck. And it wasn't until I got this operations manager in place that I was able to block everything out and really just free up enough time in the day to actually think and figure out what I actually needed to be working on to scale. Not only that, this alleviated a massive amount of stress for me, saved me a ton of energy. And before I hired this person, I pretty much hated the business. So to find this person, honestly, it was a lot of work. There was a ton of people that applied. Many of them were not qualified. Many people were flaky. They didn't even know what the job was in the interview. It was a bit of a shit show. It took me about 2 months to find this person because I was going through all the applications. I was emailing people to set up the interviews. I was conducting the interviews. I was following up with people. Like I was doing everything in the hiring process. One thing that you can look for if you're hiring an operations manager is look for people with 6 Sigma certifications. For example, a 6 Sigma black belt certification. Basically what this means is it's an educational course that they go through that helps them become very process oriented. So for an operations manager, they need to understand how all the processes work within your business. They need to optimize those processes, and they need to make sure that your business is running as efficiently as humanly possible. When I was interviewing, this particular person stood out because he had managed call centers before in the past. He lives in the Philippines. There's so many call centers there. So the Philippines is a great country for me to look for this role. So when he applied, I found out he was managing a team of a couple hundred people. At the time, my team was like less than 10. So I knew that this would be a piece of cake for him. When I initially hired him and I brought him into the business and I had to onboard him and get him up to speed and really get him productive, there was a good amount of heavy lifting associated with that because at the time, I had no training materials documented. I was doing the work myself. Most of the processes were in my head. And a lot of the processes, to be honest, I hadn't even figured out yet. It was a newer business. But I made sure that every time I met with him to train him, I recorded the meeting and we were very diligent about creating SOPs. That way, over time, as I trained him, I had like a full training manual of recordings. I had SOPs. I had everything documented so that God forbid, if for whatever reason he didn't work out and I had to go replace him and hire someone else, I already had all that built out and I'd be able to onboard the next person a lot faster. Also, as a quick side note, like I mentioned before, the third business that I have is a recruitment business for virtual assistants. So if you want trained, vetted A-player VAs placed into your business for really any any role that you could possibly want to hire for and you want it all done for you, just check out the link in the description. So after I hired this particular individual, like I mentioned earlier, it freed up a massive amount of my time. And it really got to the point where I was like, what the heck do I do now? Like, I'm not actually operating the business. I don't even need to be involved. What was really cool was the first thing I did was I went and took a vacation. I went and traveled for like a month. And during that month, I was a little anxious. I was like, how's this going to work out? Is this thing going to break? But you know, I needed a break so badly. And I also really believe in having some balance in life and not just grinding yourself to death. And I like to travel. So I took the risk and I left, and lo and behold, literally nothing happened. Everything was fine. I would text him once in a while throughout the day. Some days I wouldn't even talk to him. This was a really big eye-opening moment for me because I was like, okay, this is interesting. I had never hired someone to operate my business before. The business was always very reliant on me to get shit done and to oversee everything. But now I found someone who's accountable, they're trained, they actually know more about this type of business and managing a huge team than I do. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, well, this is cool. Like, I have all this time. What do I do next? So at this point, I just completely removed myself from the day-to-day and I went all in on sales and marketing. I was the first salesperson. I was the marketer. I was doing all of that. I was even the appointment setter. So the next role that I went and hired was an appointment setter. I was running ads initially on TikTok because to be honest, I was a little inexperienced. I didn't know that Meta was just better. So I was on TikTok, I was running ads, I was getting these leads coming in. I was calling them, I was booking the sales call, I was meeting with them, like I was doing everything from A to Z. I was even following up with them after the call to close them. So the next logical hire in building this business was to go get an appointment setter. So I hired this appointment setter. She lives in Argentina. She's been with me for a long time now, many years. She was previously making about $400 a month working at an in-person job in Argentina, which is crazy. This is actually a very common situation for office workers in Argentina. Many of the people there are turning online to go find better paying jobs. And then also because their currency is a mess, they want to earn in the US dollar. So anyways, I went and hired her. She came in as an appointment setter and immediately started calling all the leads that I was generating from ads. And I was also doing cold email at the time. So hiring her freed up a ton of time. I no longer had to be reactively calling these people as fast as possible, calling them like 2 to 3 times a day, every day until I got a hold of them. I was now able to focus on the sales calls. I was able to focus on fine-tuning the sales pitch. I was able to focus on creating new types of ads and testing different types of creative and posting more organic content so I could get free organic leads, which who doesn't love that? And then eventually she proved that she was good enough to go on the sales calls. So once things on the sales side started to get more streamlined, I turned up the ad spend. We got more leads. She kept calling them because she had bandwidth. And then I put her on the sales calendar and both of us were taking sales calls. Now I essentially had an appointment setter / salesperson. I was also doing the sales calls. We started making some more money and then things started to snowball from there. Sometimes when I meet with clients, they're like, well,
how am I going to hire an appointment setter who's not in the US? Are they going to speak English? I don't want them to have a heavy accent. Are they going to connect with the leads, or are they just going to turn everyone off?
And I can tell you with complete confidence that is not a problem. You can easily find people that are completely fluent in English. They barely have an accent. Oftentimes we'll hire people or help clients hire people who actually grew up in the US and they sound American. And then the other thing that a lot of people forget is that many people within the US have an accent. So as long as you hire someone who doesn't have a heavy accent and it's easy for them to communicate, you're completely fine. And then those same people are also very fearful about hiring somebody in, let's say, Latin America to handle their sales calls. They think that their close rate's going to be lower because they don't live in the US. It's just far from the truth. It doesn't matter at all. You can find amazing, talented people all over the world. As long as you find people that are educated, they went to college, you find people with some sales experience, you'll be totally fine. They'll do just as good, if not better, than the US talent that you would otherwise hire. Let's quickly talk about the hiring process for this appointment setter who turned into a sales closer. So this hiring process is quite simple. So like I've said a couple times, you need someone who's completely fluent in English, has very minimal to no accent, and then also has experience doing sales or appointment setting, and most importantly, has the correct personality type. So what's funny is sometimes when we go and post these jobs or I'm hiring for myself, I'll get people that used to be engineers applying to these roles. And then you go and meet the person and they're like very stiff, they're robotic, they just understand processes. So although they do have a high IQ and they're clearly intelligent people, they tend to be a little bit lower on the EQ, emotional intelligence, which is what you really need. You need to find someone who's going to get on the phone, get on a sales call, and they'll be able to read people like a book. And then once they read them, they're going to adjust their approach, they'll fine tune things. They have the emotional intelligence to be able to build rapport with pretty much anyone. They know when to push, they know when to lean in, they know when to back off. All of that comes very naturally to them. This role is quite simple to screen people for. You can get a simple introduction video. You can see how the person sounds. You can hear their English fluency. You can spot red flags for like robotic personality, stuff like that. And then once you get into the interview, a very, very simple way to end the interview after you get to know them is you say, okay, so I'm going to give you an opportunity to meet with all of my potential clients, which I'm spending a lot of money on. I have to go and pay for ads to get these leads. And we put a lot of work into our marketing and getting these people on the sales calendar. Why should I trust you to take these sales calls? Please persuade me as to why I should invest my precious time, energy, and attention into training you and developing you as opposed to someone else. Please tell me. And then what's funny is you'll see how they react under pressure. Do they clam up and shut down and get like kind of nervous and they don't know how to respond? Do they give you a cookie cutter answer where they're like,
well, I have the skills and I have the attitude and I'm a hard worker,
and just give you very surface level reasons? Or do they actually get it? Like, are they on it? Do they understand the mindset that someone needs to have to succeed in this role? And do they give you some tangible information that actually freaking means something? Do they actually persuade you? Because if they don't persuade you on the call, there's no way they're going to persuade anyone in a sales call or if they're trying to set an appointment. So the main outcome of successfully hiring someone as an appointment setter and growing her into a closer was it freed up the time that I was spending on appointment setting and also on some sales calls. And it also made me some more money, got some more revenue into the business that I could reinvest into hiring more people and ultimately just grow the business. So the next role that was absolutely crucial when I was building really all these businesses was hiring a recruiter. So I ended up hiring a full-time recruiter who was going out and just looking for top talent all the time. And I have them doing this still to this day. I've actually very many people doing this because even if I don't need to hire someone, I don't want to have to wait 2 to 4 weeks to go and find someone. And I would way rather have the luxury of having a pool of candidates that I already know are interviewed, I already know are a good fit, and they're ready to go. And I can just tap into them and throw them into my business just like that. This strategy has worked out to be incredibly successful for me and has allowed me to grow a lot faster. And it also gives me an immense amount of leverage over my existing staff. What I mean by that is oftentimes we'll hire people, and if we don't have any other options, despite them showing red flag after red flag or having poor performance, we continue to double down and triple down and quadruple down and just pour our heart and soul into the person to try to get them productive and try to get them to perform and actually care about the role. But if there's one thing that I've learned in life is that very few people will ever change. The only way that they will change is if they really want to change, and even then they're probably not going to change. So having a pool of talent that's already vetted that I could draw from right away completely eliminated the fear of, oh God, like if I fire this person, I'm gonna have to go find someone new. It's gonna take a couple weeks. I gotta train him. I gotta do this, blah, 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 blah. It allowed me the emotional leverage to look at people and their work output way more objectively and just cut them off if they weren't a good fit. So moral of the story, having the recruiter was an absolute game changer because in all the businesses that I have, they're very human capital intensive, meaning I have to hire a lot of people all the time. And there's no way that I'm gonna spend my precious time posting jobs on the internet, looking at people's applications when like 90% of them aren't even freaking qualified, and then spending my precious time interviewing people. I personally find interviewing people to be really boring, very draining. I don't want to talk to any of these people, to be honest. I just want someone to go do it for me and to give me the best people and tell me who to hire. And then funny enough, after hiring this first recruiter, I had so many friends and colleagues and really people online coming to me saying,
hey, can I use that recruiter? Like, I hate doing that stuff too.
And then very organically, that actually spawned the birth of my third business, the recruitment service. If I had to start all over again, I was building a business from scratch and I had one person I had to go and hire first. Without a shadow shadow of a doubt, the first person that I would hire would be the operations manager. I want this person to come in on the ground floor. I want them to know the ins and outs of the business, how all the processes work. I want them to be the most well-rounded, capable, and well-trained person humanly possible. I also don't want to deal with the day-to-day of managing staff or interacting with the clients unless you have to, depending on your business. And I just want to get the heck out of the day-to-day as fast as possible to focus on sales and marketing. That's what I want to do. So those are the exact hires that I made to free up my time to scale and get the heck out of the day-to-day. So here's one of the biggest benefits. It's not just about me growing my business and making more money. It's really about win-win relationships and opportunities. I've had so many of the people that I've hired come to me, tell me about how it's changed their life. They've been able to buy properties. They've been able to buy nice cars. I've actually made a bunch of stories about those people on my TikTok if you want to go check those out. And again, if you want help hiring a virtual assistant for literally any role within your company, as long as it can be done on the phone or the computer or a combination of the two, we can find you someone who's vetted, they're trained, they're an A player. There's a link in the description to book a call if you're interested.